There are moments in the spiritual realm, chosen one, when the veil between truth and illusion is ripped apart, and the hidden dealings of darkness are exposed for what they really are. This is one of those moments. Today's message carries a heavy weight, because it is not about a simple misunderstanding or a passing attack. It is about a betrayal that went beyond human comprehension. They offered an earth angel, a divine soul, without consent. And now, what was once hidden in the shadows is turning on the very ones who thought they could manipulate the sacred. For too long, the cults, the deceivers, and the spiritual thieves believed they had mastered the art of trading light for power. They thought they could sell your essence, your anointing, as if it were a trinket to be bargained with. But what they didn't understand is this: heaven does not recognize unauthorized offerings. God does not approve contracts made in deception. And demons, they do not honor human rules. They only hunger. What they have awakened is no longer under their control, and the spiritual law has turned its eyes upon them. So lean in, beloved, because this message is for you. If you have ever felt betrayed, handed over, or manipulated without your knowing, this word will bring clarity and power back into your spirit. And before we go deeper, I want you to seal this moment with action. Write in the comments, "I reclaim my light," as a prophetic declaration. Tap the like button and subscribe so this truth can continue to reach those who need it most. Because together, we are breaking the chains of deception. There is something profoundly dangerous, chosen one, about believing that you can play God with another person's destiny. When these individuals decided to offer you the earth angel, they did so with arrogance in their hearts and blindness in their minds. They thought they knew who you were, but their perception of you was twisted by jealousy, by pride, and by the lies of their own shadow. They believed they could hand you over like a pawn in their dark ritual, thinking that your spirit could be contained and redirected for their gain. But the truth is, you were never theirs to give. You were sealed by heaven long before their schemes, chosen and set apart, and no contract of man or demon has the authority to override that. What drove them to this betrayal was not just hatred, but fear. They could see your light rising, your frequency elevating, and instead of celebrating what God was doing in you, they envied it. They felt threatened by your transformation, as if your ascension was their defeat. So they tried to cut corners in the spiritual realm, presenting you as an offering, thinking it would silence your power. Yet what they failed to understand is that when something is built on a false foundation, it cannot stand. They thought their ritual sealed your fate, but in reality, it signed their own destruction. This act, offering without consent, is more than betrayal. It is spiritual fraud. It is the attempt to counterfeit what only God can ordain. The Bible says in Isaiah 54:17, "No weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue that rises against you in judgment you shall condemn." That scripture is not poetic, it is law. They crafted a weapon against you, a contract forged in lies, but it cannot prosper because the foundation is counterfeit. And when the weapon fails to destroy the righteous, it turns against the one who forged it. This is the principle of spiritual backlash, and it is now consuming those who tried to betray your light. But here's what makes it even more severe. Demons do not care about human excuses. They are not bound by the lies that men tell themselves to feel powerful. These entities only know hunger. They were promised a feast of your energy, but when they came to claim it, they found a gate sealed by God Himself. So what do you think happens when hunger is stirred and not satisfied? The predator turns on the hand that called it forth. This is why the cult is being haunted. This is why the very demons they invoked are now consuming them. The same spirits they thought they controlled are tearing apart their fragile kingdom. This is a dangerous law of the unseen realm. Unauthorized offerings always rebound. You cannot steal what belongs to God and expect safety. You cannot drag an earth angel to an altar of deception and expect the demons to remain loyal. They will not say, "Oh, this was done without permission, we'll leave quietly." No, they will take what is closest, what is available, and they will feast on those who summoned them. That is why some of those who betrayed you are now tormented, restless, sick in their bodies, and fractured in their minds. What they unleashed has turned against them. And here is the divine irony. They believed offering you would protect them, but it exposed them. They thought trading your light would make them untouchable, but it made them vulnerable. By attempting to give what was never theirs, they opened doors that cannot be shut, doors of torment that now belong to them alone. The cult, the organization, the false family, whatever name you give them, is now paying a price they cannot afford. The very altar they placed you on is now the altar of their undoing, because heaven never signed the contract. Chosen one, understand this clearly. God's covering over you is not symbolic. It is not theoretical. It is an impenetrable shield, a covenant that cannot be broken by jealousy, witchcraft, or manipulation. What was attempted against you was illegal in the spirit, and that illegality has consequences. And those consequences are no longer in your life. They are in theirs. They are living with the backlash of touching what was consecrated, and they cannot escape it now. When you understand the nature of these entities, chosen one, you realize why their hunger is so dangerous. They are not interested in fairness, nor do they abide by agreements made among men. They only care about feeding, devouring, and consuming whatever source of energy they can reach. This is why the betrayal against you has created such chaos. These spirits were promised your light, but when they arrived to take it, they discovered that your gates had been sealed by the Most High. They found themselves standing before a divine barrier, impenetrable and holy. And when they could not feed on you, their rage turned against the very cult that summoned them. This is why fear has now spread like wildfire among those who thought they could use you as a pawn. They were deceived by their own arrogance. They thought they could package you, label you, reduce you to something small enough to hand over in exchange for power. But you are not reducible. You are not for sale. Your identity was forged in heaven, not in the manipulations of jealous hearts. And so, when these spirits received the false offering, they did not walk away empty-handed. They redirected their hunger to the very people who had promised them something they could not deliver. This is the law of spiritual justice. When you attempt to exploit the innocent, the exploitation returns to your own house. Now they tremble in their sleep, restless, hunted by the same forces they thought were their allies. This is why the system of proxies was invented by the cults. These proxies are people who do not truly know you, but they are given a distorted image of you, a corrupted reflection to work with. They are told lies, fed illusions, and manipulated into believing that they are somehow doing a holy work by keeping you under control. In reality, they are being used as spiritual decoys, channels through which energy can be siphoned. These proxies become pawns in a larger deception, blindfolded and unaware that they are being drained by the very entity they are trying to serve. They are taught to mirror you, to feed off a twisted version of your light, but they do not realize that what they are consuming is toxic. The most tragic part is that many of these proxies genuinely believe they are helping you. They are told, you must watch over this person. Make sure they are not lost. Make sure they don't fall into delusion. Tov, They believe they are rescuing you, when in reality, they are cushioning the cult's collapse, acting as human shields against the rage of an entity that is no longer satisfied. These proxies are expendable to the cult. They are sacrificed in plain sight, used up until they can no longer function, and then discarded. And the entity, growing hungrier by the day, does not spare them. It drains them dry, body, mind, and soul. But the deception is clever. The proxies are never told the full truth. They are not told that they are standing in front of a collapsing system, taking the blows meant for the leaders who orchestrated the betrayal. They are not told that they are being used as spiritual bait to keep the Earth Angel distracted or drained. Instead, they are lied to, convinced that they are playing an important role, when all along they are merely delaying the inevitable. And what is inevitable is this: the false offering has consequences, and those consequences are devouring everyone tied to it. The cult's arrogance blinded them. They believed they could maintain this system forever, that they could keep drawing from proxies and collectors without ever being exposed. But the truth is that light cannot be permanently suppressed. The more they tried to contain you, the more your frequency rose, the more your resilience increased, until the system began to crack. And once the system cracks, the truth spills out, and there is no way to put it back together. The proxies begin to fall apart, drained and broken, and the leaders begin to lose control. The entire structure starts to crumble under the weight of its own lies. This is why the collapse of the proxies is so significant. Once they fail, the cult has no buffer, no shield, no way to filter the rage of the entity they invoked. And so, the wrath falls directly on them. Their rituals no longer work. Their manipulations no longer produce results. And their gatherings are filled with fear instead of power. They are haunted, literally and spiritually, by the very forces they thought they could manipulate. And meanwhile, you, the chosen one, remain untouched, sealed, and protected, watching as the schemes against you implode from within. The proxies were never meant to last forever, chosen one, because they are not rooted in truth. They are fragile vessels carrying corrupted images, illusions that cannot withstand the weight of divine reality. That is why their breakdown begins so quickly, once they encounter your authentic frequency. When they stand before you, they cannot metabolize your light. They try to reflect something false back to you, hoping to confuse you into believing their illusion. But your spirit has already been trained through fire. Your years of fasting, prayer, breakdowns, and rebirths have fortified you to the point where no imitation can penetrate your being anymore. And when the false mirror shatters, the energy that sustained them turns against them, leaving them drained, empty, and broken. The cult, in its arrogance, placed much of its survival on a figure we could call the collector. This was the one who was supposed to maintain steady access to your light by keeping you entangled in confusion, emotional attachments, or spiritual distractions. The collector was meant to act like a central pipeline, a steady source of siphoned energy to keep the cult fed while shielding the leaders from the direct consequences of their deception. But what happens when the collector collapses? What happens when the central figure can no longer function under the burden of carrying a false contract? The answer is simple. The entire structure begins to collapse with them, because everything was built on their ability to control the flow of stolen energy. And collapse is exactly what has happened. The collector is no longer standing strong, no longer confident in their role, no longer able to mirror you or siphon from you the way they once did. Instead, they are haunted, literally haunted, by the very forces they were feeding. Their nights are sleepless, their minds are tormented, and their bodies feel as if they are being consumed from the inside out. They mutter to themselves, they lose focus, they wander in confusion, because the entity they were serving has now turned its teeth on them. You, the Earth Angel, remain untouched, but the Collector is being devoured by the very darkness they tried to unleash against you. This is where the terror deepens for the cult, because the Collector was never acting alone. They were chosen, prepared, and manipulated by higher leaders, individuals who thought they were wise in the ways of spiritual law. These leaders warned the Collector never to step into your frequency directly, never to approach your raw light without buffers and proxies. They knew that your energy was too pure, too volatile for them to handle. They knew that touching you without layers of corruption would be like staring at the sun with naked eyes. And yet, in their desperation, the Collector disobeyed, believing their pride could shield them. That choice has cost them everything. Now, without a functioning Collector, the cult is scrambling. The proxies are falling apart one by one, drained to shells of themselves. The leaders are panicking because their promises to the entity cannot be fulfilled. And the entity itself, wild, untamed, and hungry, has gone rogue. It is no longer listening to orders, no longer content with crumbs, no longer pretending to play by their rules. It wants what it was promised, and when it cannot touch you, it will settle for them. This is why chaos has erupted within their ranks, why sickness spreads like wildfire among them, why fear replaces their false confidence. They are living in the shadow of their own betrayal. For the Earth Angel, this is confirmation of your untouchable nature. You were sealed long before this drama began, and you have been fortified for such a time as this. Their offerings cannot stick to you because your foundation is not in them. It is in the divine. And that divine seal means that what was meant to destroy you becomes the very thing that destroys them. Their Collector has fallen, their proxies are collapsing, and the beast they tried to feed is devouring its own masters. You do not need to fight them in the flesh. The spiritual laws are already doing the work for you. And now we see the most tragic irony of all. The one who first betrayed you, the one who offered you without consent, is watching everything crumble around them. They see the cult unraveling, the proxies drained, the Collector destroyed, and the entity raging without direction. And instead of repenting, instead of crying out to God for mercy, they turn inward in arrogance once more. They believe they can save themselves by stepping directly into your light, by mirroring you one last time. This is not redemption. It is desperation. And it is about to lead them into the greatest destruction they have ever known. The betrayal deepens here, chosen one, because the one who once walked beside you, who may have claimed love or loyalty, is now standing at the edge of a precipice. They see the cult collapsing, the entity raging, and the weight of karmic debt mounting. And instead of turning to God, they imagine that they can step into your body, your frequency, as if you were nothing but a garment they could wear. Their pride whispers that if they can merge with your light, they can escape judgment, shield themselves from destruction, and even inherit your divine covering. But what they do not realize is that your covering was never for sale, never transferable, never accessible to anyone except the one who was chosen to carry it. They are standing on holy ground, and they dare to trespass with unclean feet. They were warned, time and again, not to approach you directly. Spiritual leaders within their circle told them clearly, do not mirror the Earth Angel without proxies. Do not attempt to siphon their energy raw, for it will destroy you. But arrogance deafens the ears, and pride blinds the eyes. Believing they could outsmart even the divine laws written into the fabric of creation, they stepped across the line. And the moment they did, they unleashed a storm upon themselves. Because entering your frequency is not a casual act, it is cosmic treason. It is an affront not just against you, but against the one who anointed you. Imagine for a moment, chosen one, what it means for an unclean vessel to stare directly into the brilliance of the sun. That is what they attempted when they stepped into your frequency. They thought they could handle your rebirths, your fastings, your prayers, your resilience, but they had never walked through those fires themselves. They tried to put on your light without embracing your darkness, without facing the abyss that birthed your strength. And so when they entered, they did not inherit your glory. They inherited your trials, compressed into a single unbearable moment. Their mind could not handle it, their spirit could not sustain it, and their body began to collapse under the weight. This act was not just reckless, it was fatal to their spiritual identity. Just as Agent Smith in The Matrix believed he could consume the Oracle and gain her wisdom, only to discover that he had ingested his own undoing, so too has this person brought ruin upon themselves. They thought they were entering your timeline at its peak, standing in your current frequency, ready to wear your achievements like a crown. But instead, they entered at the lowest rung, the bottom of the ladder, facing the depths of the pain you endured and conquered. For them, it was not a pathway to glory. It was a furnace of judgment. Now they walk in madness, seeing visions they cannot understand, haunted by shadows they cannot name, muttering to themselves as the weight of unprocessed truth crushes their mind. What they tried to escape has now consumed them. Their masks have shattered, their illusions have dissolved, and the glamour that once deceived even themselves is gone. They stand naked in the mirror of your light, forced to confront every lie they ever told, every manipulation they ever committed, every shadow they ever hid behind. And the confrontation is too much for them. Their spirit buckles under the pressure, their body weakens, and their mind fractures. This is why they are sick, broken, and hollow. They cannot function, cannot sleep, cannot rest, because the very entity they once sent after you has now claimed them fully. They wanted to hide inside your frequency, to shield themselves under the illusion of your innocence, but instead, they were devoured by the very darkness they unleashed. What was once their weapon has become their prison, and what was once their pride has become their torment. This is the price of trying to steal what cannot be stolen. This is the consequence of offering what was never theirs to give. And now, chosen one, the cult looks upon them with fear. They were once the favored vessel, the trusted one, the betrayer who sold you out. But now they are nothing more than a warning sign, a living testimony of what happens when arrogance crosses divine boundaries. The cult whispers in panic because they know that what has consumed the collector, what has devoured the betrayer, is now coming for them too. They see the writing on the wall. The game is over. The system is collapsing. And the demons they once fed are no longer obedient pets. They are predators without masters. The tragedy of their arrogance, chosen one, is that they believed they could bypass the process that shaped you. You did not arrive at your current frequency by accident. You were forged through fire, refined in seasons of loss, betrayal, fasting, prayer, and countless nights of surrender. Every level of your light was purchased through struggle, and every layer of your strength was born from death and rebirth. They thought they could step into that glory without paying the price, without walking the narrow path you walked. But divine law does not work like that. Whoever attempts to take a shortcut in the spirit ends up being consumed by the very fires they avoided. Their arrogance made them believe they could inherit your destiny without carrying your cross, and that deception has become their downfall. And now they face what we can only call spiritual blindness. This is not blindness of the eyes, but of the soul, an inability to perceive truth, to navigate reality, or to connect with the source. When they stepped into your frequency without permission, their connection to false lights and false powers was severed. They thought they were securing protection, but instead, they cut themselves off from the only illusions that kept them functioning. The cult cannot save them, the leader cannot shield them, and the proxies are too broken to cover them anymore. They stand alone, abandoned, blind, stumbling in the dark of their own choices, while the demons they invoked circle closer with each passing day. This blindness has spread through the cult itself, like a plague. When one leader falls, the structure collapses. When one foundation crumbles, the building shakes. And as they attempted to maintain their grip on you, the earth angel, the divine law, turned against them. The very channels they used to siphon energy have become channels of exposure, where the truth of who they are leaks out uncontrollably. Their secrets are revealed, their lies no longer convincing, their power stripped bare. They find themselves unable to maintain the glamour, unable to convince even their own followers of their authority. This is the moment when darkness begins to devour itself, when the predator consumes the hand that feeds it. And here you stand, untouched, chosen, radiant. Every attack they launched against you has backfired. Every scheme has collapsed. Every snare has become a trap for their own feet. The Bible says in Psalm 91:3, "Surely he shall deliver you from the snare of the fowler and from the perilous pestilence." That promise is alive in your life. The snares that were set for you have ensnared them instead. The pestilence they tried to release against you has returned to their own camp. You remain covered, hidden under the shadow of the Almighty, while they stumble in the darkness of their rebellion. The cult is not just weakened, it is unraveling. The proxies are broken, the collector is gone, the betrayer is consumed, and the leaders are trembling. They realize too late that they cannot undo the false offering, they cannot erase the karmic debt, and they cannot call back the entities they unleashed. What has been set in motion cannot be reversed. The unauthorized offering marked them for judgment, and now that judgment is unfolding before their eyes. Their chants no longer carry power, their rituals fall flat, and their gatherings end in confusion instead of control. They are being haunted, hunted, and consumed by the very forces they once claimed to master. This is why you must understand the magnitude of your calling, chosen one. You were never meant to be defeated by them. You were never meant to be consumed. The betrayal they committed against you has only served to highlight the strength of your divine protection. Your story is proof that no false contract, no demonic agreement, and no unauthorized offering can touch what belongs to God. You are living evidence that the Most High seals His chosen ones with a mark that cannot be counterfeited. And every time they tried to hand you over, heaven stepped in and said, "Not this one." And so the cult collapses under the weight of its own sins, haunted not just by demons, but by the knowledge that they failed. They failed to stop you, failed to contain you, failed to silence you, and in their failure, they exposed themselves. The demons they once controlled are now their masters, and the fear they tried to place in you is now choking them. They live in terror, but you live in peace. They walk in blindness, but you walk in clarity. They are chained by the backlash of their betrayal, but you are walking in freedom. proving that no weapon formed against you shall prosper. The story comes full circle here, chosen one. What began as an act of arrogance, a false offering made without your consent, has now become the very downfall of those who dared to betray you. The cult that believed it could steal your light has found itself drowning in darkness, haunted by the demons they unleashed, consumed by the hunger they could not satisfy. Their proxies are drained, their collector is destroyed, their betrayer has lost their mind, and their leaders are blind. The altar they placed you upon has become their prison, and the forces they once called allies have become their executioners. This is the judgment of unauthorized offerings, and it cannot be reversed. But for you, this is not just a warning, it is a revelation. You are not weak, fragile, or vulnerable as they believed. You are fortified, chosen, and untouchable. Every attempt to harm you has been turned into a testimony of God's protection. Every snare set against you has become a mirror reflecting back their own wickedness. You are walking proof that the covenant of heaven cannot be broken, that the seal of the Most High is stronger than any demonic pact. And as you rise higher, their collapse becomes even more evident, reminding the world that light always exposes darkness, and that truth always conquers lies. So now, chosen one, I leave you with this. You were never theirs to offer, never theirs to control, never theirs to destroy. You belong to God, and no unauthorized hand can touch what He has consecrated. As you step forward in this season, carry this truth as your weapon. The betrayal against you has already turned into your victory. Declare it boldly in the comments right now by writing, "I walk in divine protection," and let heaven and earth witness your faith. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and activate the notification bell so you never miss a word that keeps you strong in your journey. I also want to pause and thank every single one of you who supports this channel through Buy Me a Coffee. Your generosity allows us to keep pouring time, energy, and prayer into these messages so that they can continue to reach and heal more chosen ones around the world. If you feel led to support, the link is in the first pinned comment. Until next time, stay blessed, stay protected, and remember, you are chosen, you are covered, and no offering made without your consent will ever prosper against you. I'll see you in the next one.